Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz sacked his finance minister on Wednesday and said he will hold a parliamentary confidence vote in the government in January, triggering political chaos in Europe's largest economy, hours after Donald Trump won the US presidential election. After sacking Finance Minister Christian Lindner of the Free Democrats Party, or FDP, Scholz is expected to head a minority government, either alone with the Social Democrats or with the Greens, the second largest party, relying on a cobbled-together parliamentary majority. The collapse of Scholz's three-way coalition caps months of wrangling over budget policy and Germany's economic direction, with a government's popularity sinking and far-right and far-left forces surging. What does this mean for the largest economy in Europe, and what is the potential impact on the European Union? Well, to explore these questions, I am joined by Piotr Andrzejewski. He's from the Institute for Western Affairs. Mr. Andrzejewski, welcome to TP World. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure, sir. So what's behind this shake-up, and why now?
Well, there are several reasons, but the most important one is the fact that Germany is undergoing an economic recession for a second consecutive year this year, last year, and just 2 months ago, Minister Robert Habeck, the economy minister from the Green Party, announced Germany will enter recession this year as well, and this caused all the parties to prepare their programs, their ideas on how to stimulate growth in Germany, and these visions were so divergent that it led to the breakup of the coalition. The Greens and partly the Social Democrats wanted more spending. They wanted stimulus packages, the so-called Deutschland funds, or the German funds. So in short words, more debt to stimulate growth, especially in the green sectors of the economy, to bolster the green transition as well as growth. But at the same time, we have Christian Lindner, who had from the Free Democratic Party, and the former finance minister, who wanted a completely different approach. He wanted fewer taxes, no more overspending. He always had this idea that Germany has already overspent because of COVID, because of the inflation crisis and the energy crisis that was spurred by the Russian invasion on Ukraine. And obviously there is consensus that the Germany's economy is failing, and it's very hard to find sources for new growth. But the visions on how to do it, how to stimulate growth, were so divergent that this proposition was so radical in the eyes of his coalition partners, simply because they were against what was agreed in their coalition deal that they signed, of course, when they formed the government. And it was simply too much for Scholz. There are already voices in Germany that Lindner wanted to leave the coalition by himself. He was preparing to do it because his party is failing in the polls. They are barely reaching the electoral threshold of 5%, and simply Chancellor Scholz made the first step for Lindner. So it was said that that Lindner wanted to leave on Thursday, and Scholz sacked him on Wednesday, so a day before, to show himself as the active party. And now we are entering simply a political campaign mode. Yes, everybody is now trying to present himself as the rational leader. Now,
understood. Now I want to get to the political situation in just a second, but before we do, I'd like to ask you about the fact that this happened just within hours of Donald Trump winning the presidential election, and Trump has been quite vocal in terms of talking about tariffs on imports from Europe into the US. Do you think that might have triggered this, or was there no connection?
I want to make this perfectly clear. No, it's not. It was not an issue. It was an internal issue, and the schedule of all the events was completely driven by internal affairs in Germany. And the only way that the election of Trump could have influenced it was to give the argument for Chancellor Scholz to convince his coalition partners to remain because hard times are coming. All the major German economical institutes have already presented the predictions of Germany's economic growth for 2025, adjusted to the situation, meaning that Trump will become president, and they are expecting it to actually be much lower. Instead of 0.5% of growth, it will be 0.2 or 0.3% of growth, simply because they're expecting that Trump will put pressure on Germany regarding military spending and put pressure on, well, he said the most beautiful word in the world is tariffs. So that he's going to impose tariffs, it's going to hinder the German industrial sector. So they're expecting less growth simply because of the fact that Trump is president, but it did not influence the political dynamics in Germany that much.
Understood. Okay, so basically, as you say, completely separate to Trump's elections, internal problem. Now, what does this mean for fiscal policy for Germany going ahead with the sacking of Lindner?
Well, it's the current situation basically stops any possibility of any reform or conducting any cohesive policy till the next elections. It's as you mentioned in your introduction, Scholz wants to call a no confidence vote only in January. But already the biggest opposition party, the Christian Democratic Union, CDU, under the leadership of Friedrich Merz, they said, no, that's too long. Why? You have no majority. You will not be able to conduct any policy. The no confidence vote should be next week. And the election should be sooner. But no, this process will be drawn up by Scholz to 5 months. If he calls the no confidence vote in January, then the federal president has 21 days to assess the situations, then call new elections, and then it has 60 days till elections. So it means they will happen in March. And this means that Germany will be under a very weak leadership for the next 5 months, almost half a year. And there will be no way that Scholz will be able to muster a majority in parliament that will be able to introduce any cohesive economical policy. So Germany is going to simply continue their drift in that regard.
So why isn't Scholz actually speeding things up? Why does he want to wait till January? I mean, surely a situation of turmoil in the German government is of no good to anybody.
Well, it's hard to assess, actually, because it would be a rational thing to do. But I believe that there is a political calculation that they can still turn things around a little bit and gather more support. Because actually the Social Democrats are in quite comfortable position because they know that they will remain in government even after the elections. Only they will not be leading it, but they will be the smaller coalition party. Simply because the Christian Democratic Union has now more support, 34%, which is more than all 3 coalition parties together, so namely Social Democrats, Greens, and the Liberals. But it's still not enough for the Christian Democratic Union to form a single party government, and they have only one partner, which is the Social Democrats. As I said, they would love to have a coalition with the Liberals, with Christian Lindner, but it's a gamble, simply because their support doesn't guarantee that they will enter the future parliament, the future Bundestag, and it's simply a gamble. And even if they reach 5 or 6%, it will not be enough to form a majority. That means that we are waiting for a new GroKo, of the so-called Große Koalition, the big coalition of the People's Party, of the Christian Democratic Union, and the Social Democrats. So they are actually in quite comfortable position. And Scholz is still calculating that he can muster more support if he has more time.
Understood. Okay. Well, tell me, does this give an opportunity for any of the far right or far left parties to step into the breach and offer their support to Scholz?
Of course it does, but the thing is that the SPD party, the Social Democrats, will never want to accept support from the Alternative für Deutschland, so from the far right party. It's not acceptable for them. You could also see this in dynamics on the local level. Yeah, when it was a scandal when one candidate was voted with the Christian Democracy Party was voted with the votes of appointed with the votes of the Alternative für Deutschland. It was already too much, and it was a scandal. So no, they will not want to do this with the votes of the far right. There is also Die Linke, but it's not enough. It's not enough. And with the new far left, the Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht, or the union of Sarah Wagenknecht, the far left politician. Well, she's not yet that influential. She will only be after the elections, because she only had success on a regional level and not on the federal parliamentary level. But so this political puzzle is unfavorable for Scholz right now.
Understood. Now, let's expand this into foreign policy. What is the impact on the policy towards Ukraine, for example?
Well, I won't see any change, simply because it was usually Lindner and Habeck, so the minor coalition partners, that were pushing for a change of policy towards Ukraine. Namely, they were more hawkish in their approach. They wanted to send more armaments, more weaponry, and Scholz was said to be the one who was pulling the brake on sending more aid to Ukraine. Of course, financial, okay, you can send it, but no long-range missiles like this, especially Taurus missiles from Germany. And this is something that Scholz was heavily criticized for by the opposition leader Friedrich Merz. So after the elections, whenever they will happen, we could expect a change, but no change under the current situation.
So no change for the foreseeable future, at least. Let's see what happens next year at the elections. Mr. Andrzejewski, thank you very much indeed for sharing your analysis with our audience and taking the time. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you.
And that's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, though. Lots more coming up.